All right, let's dive into something really fascinating today. We're talking Ikigai. That's the Japanese secret to a long and happy life.
Yeah, and we're going deep on this one with a book literally called Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life.
By Hector Garcia and Francesc Miralles. And you know it's not just living longer, it's about living better.
And what I really like about this book is that it's not just like these vague philosophical ideas. It's like packed with practical tips and insights from Japanese culture. Stuff you can use.
Okay, so before we get too far, let's just define this. What exactly is Ikigai?
Imagine like you wake up every morning actually excited to start your day because your work, your passions, your talents, they all like come together. They create something meaningful.
Mm.
That's Ikigai. Like finding that spot where your passion, your mission, your profession, your vocation all line up.
So you're saying it's like hitting the jackpot of purpose. You love it, you're good at it, the world needs it, and you can even get paid for it.
Exactly. And this book argues that this sense of Ikigai is a major factor in why people in Okinawa, Japan live so long. Ever heard of blue zones?
Yeah, those are the areas around the world where people live way longer than average.
Right. And Okinawa is one of them.
The book talks about some really fascinating practices they have, like harahachibu.
Okay, harahachibu. What is that?
So it means eating until you're only 80% full.
I've heard of that.
Right.
What's the point? Is it just like portion control?
It's more about mindfulness, really. It's
Oh.
like slowing down, savoring each bite, paying attention to your body's cues so you stop eating before you feel stuffed.
So it gives your body a chance to actually digest properly
Yeah.
and avoid that sluggish feeling.
Exactly.
So it's not just about eating less, it's about being more present during meals.
Right.
But it's not just about food, right? This book talks about the importance of mindset too.
Absolutely. There was this study from Yeshiva University found that a positive attitude and emotional awareness are actually linked to longevity.
Like think about it. If you're always stressed, negative, it takes a toll,
For sure.
learning to manage your emotions and having a generally optimistic outlook. That can really impact how long you live.
So basically, looking at the bright side can add years to your life.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And speaking of things that motivate us, the book also brought up this concept of natural tension.
Oh, yeah. That's based on the work of Viktor Frankl. He was a psychotherapist. He believed that having a certain level of tension between what you've done and what you still want to achieve, that's vital for a healthy, purposeful life.
So you're saying constantly striving for something, having goals, keeps us going and helps us live longer.
Think of it like an archer pulling back a bowstring. That tension, that's what propels the arrow forward. Without it, it would just, fall flat. Same with people. Frankl argued that without goals and aspirations, people lose their purpose, their direction, which can affect their well-being. It's that drive, that natural tension that keeps us engaged in life,
Yeah.
moving forward.
Okay, I like that analogy a lot. And you know what else this book talks about? Flow. Like that feeling where you get completely absorbed in an activity and time just disappears.
Ah, yeah, flow. Csikszentmihalyi, a psychologist, described that state of complete focus and immersion, where you're so engaged in what you're doing that everything else just fades away. And
Yeah.
you know what? The book says that activities that align with your Ikigai are much more likely to trigger that flow state.
So you're saying if you're doing something you truly love, something you're passionate about, you're more likely to get into that flow.
Yeah, exactly. The book even details the 7 conditions for achieving flow. A researcher named Owen Schieffer outlined those, like having a clear objective, knowing how well you're doing, minimizing distractions.
So turn off those notifications and find a quiet place if you want to unlock that flow state.
Right. And there's even this concept of microflow, finding those moments of joy and flow in everyday tasks.
Wait, so you're saying something as simple as, I don't know, folding laundry can become a flow experience?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about bringing purpose and engagement to even the most ordinary activities.
Yeah.
You like challenge yourself to fold your clothes perfectly or time yourself to see how quickly you can do it while maintaining that quality.
So even if we're not living out our ultimate Ikigai every second, we can still find those little pockets of flow and purpose in the things we do.
I like that. And speaking of finding flow in work, the book talks about this thing called takumi. What are Takumi?
Takumi are like master artisans. They've dedicated their lives to perfecting a specific craft. They embody this incredible level of dedication and flow in their work. It's more than a job, it's like an art form. There's this story in the book about a Takumi who makes makeup brushes. Each brush, it takes hours, to craft with such meticulous detail. It's incredible.
Wow, that's dedication. Embracing the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And you know what's fascinating? That mindset, it's something that like Steve Jobs really admired. He was totally fascinated by Japanese artisans and their pursuit of what he called sophisticated simplicity. I do remember reading that Jobs was really inspired by their craftsmanship and that attention to detail.
He was. The book also mentions Jiro Ono, the sushi chef from the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi. He's like a perfect example of a Takumi, someone who embodies dedication to their Ikigai.
Oh, Jiro Ono. His commitment to perfect sushi is amazing. He spent decades, right, honing his craft.
Yeah, it's amazing. That drive for excellence. But we all know life isn't always easy, even if you have a strong Ikigai. The book highlights the importance of resilience in facing life's challenges.
Right, resilience. Everyone needs that ability to bounce back from setbacks and keep going.
Absolutely. There's this Japanese proverb, fall 7 times, rise 8. It's a great reminder to never give up, to find the strength to keep going after your purpose, even when things are tough.
I love that. It actually reminds me of the concept of wabi-sabi, which the book explores too.
Ugh, wabi-sabi. Such a cool concept. You ever notice, the beauty in a cracked teacup? Its imperfections telling a story. That's wabi-sabi. Finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. Embracing the flaws, the transient nature of life, instead of striving for some perfect ideal.
It's like the opposite of the Western ideal of permanence and perfection. So instead of chasing some unattainable ideal, we should appreciate the cracks and the quirks that make things unique.
Exactly. The book gives this amazing example, the Grand Shrine of Eyes in Japan. It's completely rebuilt every 20 years.
Wow, every 20 years. Why?
It's not about holding on to material things. It's about preserving tradition, embracing change and renewal. The act of rebuilding, it becomes this ritual that connects generations and reminds them that nothing lasts forever.
Powerful, right?
It makes you think, what if we applied that to other parts of our lives, letting go of the need for absolute control and finding peace in the changes of life?
That's a great question. And that actually leads us to this concept the book introduces, taking resilience a step further, anti-fragility. Okay, anti-fragility. What does that even mean?
Imagine you're building a business. Having multiple streams of income makes it anti-fragile, because if one source dries up, the others are there. It's like not putting all your eggs in one basket. Or think about friendships, Having a diverse group of friends means you have different sources of support.
So building a safety net, but also creating a richer life in the process.
Right. It's about recognizing the things that make us vulnerable and figuring out how to minimize their impact. The book also talks about balancing conservative investments with calculated risks. Right. And another thing is identifying and eliminating sources of fragility in your life. What habits, relationships, even possessions are holding you back or making you vulnerable. Once you see them, you can start to minimize their impact.
Okay, I like that. So it's a proactive way to not just survive challenges, but to use them to get stronger, to grow. And speaking of proactive steps, the book outlines 10 specific roles for finding and nurturing your Ikigai.
Yes. They're like a framework for living a longer, more fulfilling life based on these principles of Ikigai.
10 rules is a lot to cover. Maybe we could start with a few.
Sure. So rule number 1 is to find your passion.
Well, that sounds simple enough, but sometimes finding that passion feels impossible, like finding a needle in a haystack. How do you do that?
The book encourages people to explore different things, connect with your inner child. Notice what brings you joy, what gives you a sense of fulfillment.
So be curious, experiment, follow those sparks of interest. What's rule number 2?
Rule number 2 might be a little different from what we're used to, especially here in the West. It's to stay active and never fully retire.
Wait, never retire? Isn't that the goal?
That's how we often think in the West, but in Okinawa, they don't really have a concept of retirement in the same way. They keep doing meaningful things their whole lives.
Oh, wow. So it's not about stopping work altogether. It's about finding purpose, staying active even as you get older. Okay, rule number 3.
Rule number 3 is simple, but profound. Take it slow.
I think we could all use that reminder to slow down a bit in today's world.
Totally. The book says always being in a rush is bad for your quality of life.
Yeah.
It's about slowing down, savoring the moment.
Appreciating the small things.
Yes.
Finding balance between striving and simply being. Being present in the moment, not always rushing to the next thing. What about rule number 4?
Rule number 4 connects to something we talked about earlier. It's about not filling your stomach completely.
Ah, yes. Hara hachibu. Eating until you're 80% full. It's amazing how such a small thing can make such a big difference.
It really can. The book says this practice is good for longevity, and it also helps you feel lighter, more energetic.
I'm sensing a theme here. A lot of these rules are about finding that balance in different areas of life.
You got it. Building on that, rule number 5 is about social connection. Surround yourself with good friends.
Love that one. Friends are the family you choose.
And the book talks about how important those supportive relationships are for happiness and for living a long life. Having people you can talk to, share experiences with, enjoy life with.
Cultivating those bonds that bring joy and meaning to life. Okay, so what's the next rule on the list?
Rule number 6 is to get in shape for your next birthday.
I knew it was coming. The dreaded exercise rule.
But it's not about those grueling workouts. The book focuses on gentle movement, staying active, taking care of your body, finding ways to move that feel good and that you can do long term.
So it's about finding a type of movement you enjoy and making it a part of your life. Walking, dancing, gardening, it all counts.
Exactly. And rule number 7 is simple yet powerful. Smile.
Can't argue with that. A smile can make a big difference.
The book talks about the positive effects of having a cheerful attitude. It reduces stress, makes you more approachable.
It's like radiating positive energy outwards. Okay, rule number 8, what is it?
Rule number 8 is to reconnect with nature.
Getting back to our roots. What if you live in a city, though, and can't easily access nature?
Even if you live in the city, the book encourages finding little ways to bring nature into your life. Maybe it's walks in the park, maybe it's taking care of some plants, or even just taking a moment to look at a flower. It all helps.
Finding that peace and grounding that nature offers. What's next on the list?
Rule number 9 is to give thanks.
Gratitude. Such a simple but important thing.
The book suggests taking time each day to be thankful for the people in your life, for the things you have, for your experiences.
Shifting your focus to the positive. What a great habit to cultivate. All right, bring on the final rule, number 10.
The 10th and final rule is all about living in the moment.
Okay, that's a tough one. Any advice on how to actually do that?
The book emphasizes letting go of regrets about the past, anxieties about the future. It's about being present in the here and now, enjoying each moment as it unfolds.
So instead of dwelling on what was or worrying about what might be, we should just focus on fully experiencing what is right now. Easier said than done, but I can see how that would make a huge difference.
It definitely takes practice, but the rewards are worth it.
This has been amazing learning about the first few rules of Ikigai, but I'm really curious about the Okinawan lifestyle, what we can learn from them. Maybe we can dig into that next.
Absolutely. There's so much more to explore about their unique way of life. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were exploring Ikigai and its connection to longevity. We even got a little sneak peek at some of those rules for finding and nurturing your own Ikigai, but I'm really curious to learn more about the Okinawan lifestyle. They're one of those blue zones with a ton of people living past 100, right?
You got it. The book spends a lot of time on what makes their lifestyle so unique and how it contributes to their long and healthy lives. It's not just one thing, it's a whole way of life.
Okay, so paint me a picture. What does daily life look like in Okinawa? What sets them apart?
Well, imagine waking up to the sounds of nature, surrounded by greenery. Okinawans are super connected to nature. They incorporate it into their daily routines. Like, instead of rushing off to work, maybe they'll start their day with a peaceful walk in the park or tending to their garden.
Wow, that sounds peaceful. So different from most modern cities. What about their diet? The book mentioned they eat lots of vegetables and seafood, but they also enjoy pork, right? How does that fit in?
You're right, pork is part of their diet, especially during celebrations. But it's their overall approach to food that's so interesting. They focus on fresh, local ingredients, and they practice that hara hachibu thing we talked about, eating until they're 80% full.
Mindful eating. It sounds like a big part of their health and longevity.
Oh yeah, definitely. And another key part is variety. They eat all kinds of fruits, vegetables, and grains, making sure to get lots of different nutrients.
The book also mentions some specific foods they eat that are really good for you, like sweet potatoes, seaweed, and green tea. Why are those so special?
Well, sweet potatoes are a staple in their diet, and for good reason. They're full of antioxidants, fiber, and essential vitamins and minerals. Seaweed is another superfood they eat a lot. It's got tons of iodine, which is important for your thyroid, and lots of other vitamins and minerals too. And then there's green tea. That's like a classic part of Japanese culture. It's famous for its antioxidant properties because it's got so many polyphenols.
So a daily cup of tea could help us live longer.
It couldn't hurt. But diet's not everything, right? The book also talked about staying physically active. What are some of the ways Okinawans stay active without going to the gym all the time? They're really good at incorporating movement into their daily lives. Things like gardening, walking, traditional dances, all things that keep them moving naturally. They don't see exercise as this separate thing they have to do. It's just part of life.
Yeah, the book mentioned that just getting out of your chair every 30 minutes can make a
Oh,
difference.
definitely. Sitting for too long is linked to all sorts of health problems. So even small things like standing up, stretching, taking a short walk, those can make a big difference for your overall well-being.
Breaking up those long periods of sitting and finding ways to move throughout the day. That makes sense. And speaking of movement, the book also touched on some traditional Eastern practices that are good for both physical and mental well-being, like yoga, qigong, and tai chi. I've tried yoga before. It's amazing how it can be both challenging and relaxing.
It really is. Yoga comes from India. It's this whole practice with postures, breathing exercises, and meditation. It's about creating harmony between your mind, body, and spirit.
So it's another example of Eastern practices looking at the whole person, not just the physical part. What about qigong and tai chi?
Qigong is this ancient Chinese practice. It's got gentle movements, deep breathing, and focused intention to cultivate and balance your energy, what they call qi. People have been using it for centuries to improve their health and vitality. And Tai Chi, also from China, is all about slow, flowing movements and deep breathing. It's good for relaxation, balance, and flexibility.
So it's not just physical exercise, there's a mindfulness aspect to it too.
Exactly. They're about being present in the moment, paying attention to your breath, and cultivating a sense of peace.
It's a very holistic approach to well-being, looking at both the physical and the mental. I can see how these practices, along with the Okinawan lifestyle and mindset, can help you live a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life.
Absolutely. Yeah. But all goes back to Ikigai. Find your reason for being, living a life full of purpose and passion.
It's amazing how the Okinawans have combined all these things, their diet, exercise, their mindset, their social connections, into a lifestyle that seems to promote both how long they live and how happy they are.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. And the book makes it clear that there's no one right way to do Ikigai and longevity. It's about taking inspiration from these ideas and finding what works for you, what brings you joy and purpose.
So it's a personal journey, but with these guidelines to help us along the way. I'm really curious to hear some real stories, some examples from the book. Did any particular stories stand out to you?
Oh, there were so many. One that I really remember is the story of this woman, Kamada Nakazato. She's 102 years old and lives in Okinawa. She talked about her secrets to a long life, and it wasn't about anything fancy. She just kept saying how important it was to stay active, do things you enjoy, and have a positive outlook.
It's amazing how these people find ways to keep their passions alive even when they're older. It's never too late to find your Ikigai.
Exactly. When you have that thing driving you, that reason for being, it keeps you going. It keeps you excited about life.
It's like a spark that keeps your soul burning bright.
Beautifully said. And that's what this book is all about. Finding your Ikigai, nurturing it, and letting it guide you towards a longer, happier, more fulfilling life.
So for our listeners out there who are ready to start their own Ikigai journey, what would be your final piece of advice?
I would tell them to think about the things we've talked about today and see if they can identify the activities that really make them feel that sense of flow. And, think about how accepting imperfection, that wabi-sabi way, and actively seeking challenges that help you grow stronger, that can contribute to a longer, more fulfilling life, too.
And for those who want to go deeper, we highly recommend the book Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life.
Yeah, it's a great read, full of insights and inspiration.
So we've talked about diet, movement, but what about the mental and emotional well-being part of the Okinawan lifestyle?
Their approach is so interconnected. It's hard to separate the physical from the mental and emotional. One big thing they emphasize is cultivating a sense of purpose, even later in life.
We talked about that with never fully retiring, how they always seem to have something meaningful to do. But how do you cultivate a sense of purpose? Is it just something you're born with?
Not necessarily. The book says it's something you can develop over time. Okinawans have this really strong sense of community. They belong, and that contributes to their purpose. They're often doing things to help their community, like volunteering, taking care of elders, participating in festivals.
So they see themselves as part of this larger community, contributing to something bigger than themselves.
Yes, and that feeling of interconnectedness gives them a sense of belonging and purpose that goes beyond their own individual accomplishments. Another important thing is how they approach stress and challenges.
Well, we all deal with stress and challenges, right? What makes them different?
They're incredibly resilient, partly because of their cultural values and their outlook on life. Remember wabi-sabi. They embrace that, finding beauty in imperfection, accepting that life is constantly changing.
So they don't think of setbacks as failures, but just as a natural part of life.
Exactly. And this helps them face challenges with more acceptance and even humor. They're also very grateful people, which helps them focus on the good things, even when things are hard.
Okay, so we've learned a lot about the Okinawan lifestyle. Can we actually take anything from their way of life and use it in our own lives, even if we don't live in Okinawa?
Of course, you don't have to copy their lifestyle exactly. It's more about understanding the principles and seeing if any of those resonate with you, and then finding ways to adapt them.
Okay, so let's get specific. What are some things people can do starting today to incorporate some of these Okinawan principles?
One simple thing is to try and be more mindful in your daily life. Maybe savor your morning cup of coffee, take a walk in nature, or just pay attention to your breath for a few minutes each day. Bringing your awareness to the present moment can have a big impact.
Slow down, really experience those simple moments instead of rushing through life on autopilot.
Right. And another thing is to try adding some of those Okinawan superfoods into your diet. Put some seaweed in your soup or salad, have a cup of green tea, try some new ways to cook sweet potatoes. Little changes over time can really add up.
What about exercise? Do I need to learn traditional Okinawan dance?
Only if you want to. The point is to find movement you enjoy and can fit into your life. Maybe it's walking, gardening, swimming, yoga. The important thing is to move your body regularly and make it fun, not something you dread.
And of course, social connections. The book really emphasized how important those are for living a long and happy life.
For sure. Make an effort to connect with people. Spend time with people you love. Join a club or group. Volunteer. Having people around you who support you and bring you joy is so important.
You know, it seems like the Okinawan approach to life isn't about being perfect. It's about making small, manageable changes that add up over time.
I think you're right. It's about incorporating these ideas into your daily life, little by little, and seeing what works for you. It's not about suddenly becoming an Okinawan. It's a journey.
And that brings us back to Ikigai, that feeling of purpose that drives us. It's not just about finding your one true calling, it's about finding those moments of joy and purpose in everyday life.
Beautifully said. And, the book talks about how Ikigai can change over time.
Yeah.
What makes you happy and gives you purpose when you're younger might be different when you're older. It's about being open to new things.
This has been so insightful, learning about the Okinawan lifestyle and how it all connects to Ikigai and longevity. It's really inspiring. But before we finish, I'm wondering about those last few rules of Ikigai. We covered the first 5, but what about the rest?
You're right, we only did the first 5. The other rules are full of good advice about how to nurture your Ikigai and live a more fulfilling life. Want to talk about them?
Absolutely. Let's do it. All right, so we've been talking about these 10 rules of Ikigai, right? We covered the first 5 last time. Finding your passion, staying active, taking it slow, not overeating, and being around good friends. What are those last 5 rules all about?
They kind of build on what we've already talked about. They give more advice on how to live a life full of purpose and joy, a long life. Ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's hear them. What's number 6?
Okay, rule number 6 is all about your physical health. It says, get in shape for your next birthday.
So taking care of our bodies, staying active, it's important.
Exactly. But it's not about pushing yourself too hard or trying to look a certain way. It's more about finding ways to move your body that you actually enjoy and can keep doing for a long time.
So make it a part of your life, not a chore.
Yeah, exactly. So whether that's walking, dancing, swimming, gardening, yoga, whatever, find something that makes you happy and do it regularly.
That reminds me of that microflow thing we talked about, finding those moments of joy in everyday things.
Oh, for sure. It's all about being engaged and finding purpose, even in those simple tasks. So, maybe you're not training for a marathon, but you can still move your body and feel that little bit of joy throughout the day.
I like that. Okay, what's rule number 7?
Rule number 7 is simple, but it packs a punch. Smile.
The power of a smile. But is it really that simple? Just smile more.
Well, the book talks about how big of an impact a smile can have, not just for you, but for the people around you, too.
I've definitely noticed that. Like when I smile at someone, they usually smile back. It's like spreading a little positivity.
Right. And studies have shown that smiling can actually lower your stress, make you feel better, and even help your immune system.
Wow, so smiling isn't just being polite, it's actually good for us. I'm gonna have to try that. Okay, rule number 8, what is it?
Rule number 8 is to reconnect with nature.
Get back to our roots. But what if you live in a city? How do you do that?
The book says even a little bit of nature can make a difference. It's about finding those little bits of nature in your daily life.
So, like a walk in the park, or having some plants on your balcony, or just looking up at the clouds, that counts.
Definitely. Taking a few minutes to be in nature to see how beautiful it is, it can help you feel more grounded, less stressed, and happier.
And it reminds us that we're a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Okay, what about rule number 9?
Let's hear it.
Rule number 9 is about being grateful.
Gratitude. It's so simple, but so powerful.
The book says to spend some time each day thinking about the things you're grateful for. It could be something small like a good cup of coffee, a nice thing someone did for you, or the love and support of your family and friends.
It's about focusing on the good things instead of the bad.
Exactly. And there's research that shows that being grateful can make you happier, help you sleep better, and lower your stress and anxiety.
It's amazing that something so simple can be so powerful.
Right. So try to make it a habit. Maybe write down what you're grateful for, tell someone what you're grateful for, or just think about the good things that happen during the day.
I like those ideas. All right, last one. Rule number 10. What is it?
Rule number 10 is about living in the moment.
Okay, that one's a challenge. How do you even do that?
It takes practice, but the book reminds us that the present is all we have. Thinking about the past or worrying about the future, that just takes away from the joy of right now.
So let go of the past, stop worrying about the future, and just focus on being present. But how do you actually do that?
There are a lot of ways to become more present. Meditation is one way, but even simple things like really paying attention to your senses, like what you taste when you eat, what you feel on your skin, the sounds around you, that can help you stay grounded in the present.
So enjoy those simple experiences, find joy in everyday moments, and stop chasing some future goal or dwelling on past mistakes.
Exactly. And when you're really present, you can appreciate all the good things in life, even when things are hard.
This has been so great, exploring these 10 rules of Ikigai. There's such a beautiful and practical guide for living a longer, happier, and more fulfilling life.
I agree. It's not about being perfect at Ikigai. It's about the journey and finding those things that bring you purpose and joy.
And it's so inspiring to see how these ideas come to life in the Okinawan people. They really seem to know how to live well.
They're a great example of how powerful Ikigai can be.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into Ikigai. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And for our listeners, if you want to learn more, we highly recommend checking out the book Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life. It's full of amazing information and inspiration to help you find your own path to a longer, happier, and more meaningful life.
Happy exploring, everyone. I hope you all find your Ikigai and live a life full of passion, meaning, and fulfillment.